welcome everyone. We'll start. Commissioner Cummings, would you grace us with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we'll proceed on to the Board of Managers meeting for the month of April. I take it everybody's had an opportunity to review the minutes, which were transmitted ahead of time. And if so, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
On the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The meeting minutes from last month were approved. Anybody from the public wish to address the Board of Managers on any of the agenda items? Okay, I see no hands, so we'll go forward with the motions. First motion, number 2010, a motion to change the start time of the Board of Managers meetings now to begin at 12:30 instead of 12. It's kind of self-evident since it's 12:30. I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
So moved and seconded by Commissioner Cummings. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. And then we'll go to the report of the Juvenile Detention Center. Mary Stein, please.
Good afternoon, Board.
Afternoon.
Currently, we have 6 juveniles at the center. March admissions were at 18. Year-to-date are at 43. Days of service is at 145. Overtime is at $7,769. That's due to not having enough staff at this point, a little understaffed. The breakdown is on the back sheet. Staffing really hasn't changed all that much. I did have 2 officers that had a due process hearing yesterday regarding violations as a result of the state inspection on March 29th. Days of service, yesterday we had a meeting regarding the task force and the outsourcing of the juvenile center. So the days of service came into question for 2017. The days of service for last year was at 1,475 days out of a potential 3,650 days. Currently in 2018, we're at 387 days of service out of the potential of 900 days. So overall usage of bed space is at about 30%. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Director Stein? Okay. No questions. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve the report. And a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The ayes have it. The report is approved. We'll open up the floor to the public. Any members of the public wish to address the Board of Managers? Okay. No one coming forward, so any members have any business? Other business?
Submit the task force report from the County Detention Center in regards to the meetings that were taking place. I have copies of it and just received it. And this was the work of Mary Stein, so if you'd like to review it first, that's fine. But we're having some meetings that we went through, and maybe what I'll do is I'll just make a copy, give it to you, and then maybe at the next meeting, if you wanted to.
Well, I think what we can do is we can probably submit it and today,
Okay.
and then get it distributed to electronically to the members
Okay.
of the board.
Thank you.
Any other business from any other members? Okay, if none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting of the Board of Managers for the month of April.
So moved.
Second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The April 2018 meeting of the Board of Managers is adjourned. call to order the April 2018 meeting of the Prison Board. And I take it everybody's had an opportunity to review the minutes that were transmitted ahead of time. Anybody not get them? Okay, if everybody's comfortable with them, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
On the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. At this time, I would like to go into executive session. There's a matter of a personnel matter that I wish to discuss with the board.
We ask everybody to leave the room, and we'll open the door and tell you when we're ready to come back in.
We approved the minutes, so I'll give anybody from the public who wants to address the board on the items listed on the agenda.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I have a question on the controller's report to ask, or do I wait until the controller presents?
Well, let's wait until he presents his report.
That's fine.
Right, and he might answer your question.
Okay, thanks.
You never know. But you'll get a chance.
Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. First item on the agenda, 1018, a motion to approve all current payables for the Community Correction Center, Juvenile Detention Center, and the prison. I'll entertain a motion if everybody's had an opportunity to review those.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
On the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The current payables will be paid. We'll get the controller's report. And you might have a question.
Sure.
Okay.
Can I have that, Judge, in case?
Of course you can.
Thank you. The Controller's Office reviewed the prison inmate and canteen account reconciliations which were prepared by the Prison Business Office for the month of March 2018 and found no discrepancies between the reconciliations and the bank statements. The balance in the inmate account was $392,719.19 as of March 31st of 2018. The balance in the canteen checking account was $498,755.64 as of March 31st of 2018. And in addition, as of March 31st, 2018, the canteen account owned two certificates of deposit, one valued at $15,000 and the other at $131,888.89, totaling $146,888.89. That concludes my report.
Do you want to ask your question, ma'am?
Yeah.
Okay.
Should I go up there?
Well, you can stay there if you're...
It's fine with
Oh, go up there.
Dr. Jean Harris. I think I have 4 questions. First, I'm wondering why the following costs are paid from the canteen fund and not in the general revenue fund. So on page 3 of the report, 4A and B, no, 4, so 4. Why is it that the indigent hygiene kits are paid for out of the canteen and not general revenue? Why is it that razors, bras, and underwear for inmates are paid out of canteen and not general revenue? Why is number 6, interpretation services, paid from the canteen and not general revenue? And number 11, handbooks in English and Spanish for inmates, which have to be given out, I assume, when they are entering the facility. Why are they being paid out of the canteen funds and not general revenue? I'm also curious what the Fresh Favorites program is. Number 8, the CBM food service. And at some point, the canteen fund was used to pay for the rent at the 3rd apartment for women on work release. And I'm wondering if when they pay the money back, if the money goes back into the canteen fund or if it goes into the general revenue fund. And maybe if I can find out where to get a copy of the rules and policies with regard to the canteen funds, I will be able to answer these questions on my own. But since I don't know where to get that information, I'm asking.
Doctor, we'd be happy to give you the, to find those rules for you, which will help you. A couple of the questions may involve Attorney Soffinelli regarding, what particular types of expenses can or cannot come from the canteen account. For example, the 4B question, the 4C question, razors, et cetera. And we can review any other expenses that you'd like us to with Attorney Soffinelli, just to be sure we're not going against whatever those laws may be.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Should I wait until I can get a hand on the policies?
Yeah, go ahead.
During the PA code, we
Mhm.
we have a separate policy. Generally, the requirements.
David, could you speak into the microphone?
The Pennsylvania code does not have restrictions on the fund. We have to have certain accounting procedures that the money is tracked. It's been the general practice of the board to use the funds to benefit the inmates, but that's not a legal restriction. Most of the particular purchases out of the normal operating come to this board for approval, like, for instance, the women's house payment. Some other things have come before the board for a vote. I can't address the particular items you mentioned. I think that's been going on for as long as I can remember. I don't know how that originally started as to the determination of which funds paid for those. I know they keep it internally as much as they can. What comes in and out, I think, was the practice, but I don't know the particular section off the top of my head, but there's a PA code statute that addresses the inmate canteen funds.
Okay, I have not been able to find that yet, so that's why I was asking if there's a document you could point me to.
I'll try to track it down for you.
I would appreciate that. So the decisions about what can be spent from the canteen fund is totally up to the board, the prison board.
Well, Dave is saying it's according to the PA County Code.
And the prison board-
We're not, there was a previous version of the code that specified the benefit of the inmates. That is no longer the law, so it is discretionary with the prison and the board. However, we've, to the extent possible, always as a practice, tried to maintain that standard.
Isn't it just money after their, the vending machines, and where exactly is all this money coming from?
It was the proceeds of the sales within the prisons.
So in the commissary, too, where the prices are really high, that's part of the question here is how you're benefiting the inmates and who's deciding where this money is spent on. I would think that inmate handbooks is an item that should not come from the canteen fund, because that's a legal obligation to provide the inmate. And the inmates, the profits made off of the inmates in the commissary should not be what covers something that by law you would have to give to the inmates. So that's my concern, is that the money, and I don't have the code, so I can't see what the rules are.
I understand what you're saying, but I would have to disagree on that, because it's money that is generated at the prison for the prison and for the prisoners.
For the prisoners is different than for the prison. This is the money that the warden has suggested. This is where money for the GED program should become. The handbook says there is a GED program at the prison. Currently, there's not. And so they've asked that the proceeds in the canteen fund be spent. I think that's a great use. That's a huge asset for the inmates. Legally, I don't know that you have to offer a GED program. Some of these things, again, that I think by law you need to offer shouldn't be paid for through a fund that is supposed to be there to provide things for the inmates that are not required by law. My concern then, too, is if the money's in the canteen fund is used to pay ahead the rent on the apartment, when the rent is paid back for work release, does that money being paid back go back into the canteen fund, reimburse the money that was forwarded, or does it go in the general fund? Because again, the general fund is ruled differently and decisions are made differently. So I'm just trying to get a handle on the use of the canteen fund money. And so if there is a policy or a code you could point me to, that would be helpful, and then I can clarify questions if I don't see it in the policy. And so far, I haven't been able to find it.
For sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anybody else with questions for the controller? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve this report. Second. On the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, the controller's report is...
Your Honor?
Yes.
If I may.
Okay.
Dr. Harris mentioned a topic that we have discussed for quite a while, and that's potentially reinstituting the GED program, which is the General Education Diploma program back at the prison. We had it at the prison from 2003 until 2011, and we haven't had it since 11. That is a program that we believe, and Attorney Soffinelli believes, would be eligible for canteen funds to cover the cost. And reinstituting that is something that I believe most of us, at least, would support. In my opinion, offering the opportunity for our inmates to earn a GED certificate is perhaps one of the most beneficial things that we can do for our inmates at the county prison. I happened to meet with the warden this week, along with a couple members of my staff, and to the warden's credit, he is the person that has been advocating for the GED program the most, as far as bringing it back. The warden had said that about 50% of our inmates don't have a high school diploma. And if while they're in our institution, in our prison, if we can have them have the opportunity to earn a high school diploma, that gives them tremendous opportunities to improve their life once they leave the walls of our prison. And the warden did give us a copy of a proposal from EOTC, Employment Opportunity Training Center, for bringing that back. It is something that we might have to put out for an RFP if we are going to pursue the GED program. Actually, Jane Augustine, is she here today? Yes, Jane's here. She's going to, during the public participation, she's going to talk a little bit about that program briefly, but we can, talk about it more also. But that's all I wanted to mention.
Thank you. All right, anything else on that? No? Okay, so we'll move on to the Community Corrections Center report, item 1020. Director Jeffers.
Good afternoon, Board. I can also address Dr. Harris's questions when we're done with the report here.
Okay.
Okay. The Community Corrections Program report for March of 2018, item 1. Our program totals: male work release had 57 participants. Female work release had 4 participants. Adult house arrest had 137 participants, and juvenile house arrest had 20 participants. Item 2, our program revenues for the month of March totaled $71,129.34. Item 3, our program's expenses for the month of March totaled $92,243.76. Item 4, our program's completions: work release had 12, house arrest had 30. Item 5, our program violations: work release had 5, house arrest had 9. Our program warrants: work release has 4, house arrest has 2. Our budget report for the year so far: overtime is at 39%, expenses are at 23%, and revenue is at 27%. We have 2 items to note. Personnel, that 1 part-time opening is now closed. We hired someone yesterday. And I told the board in our emails and in last month's meeting that I would have the lease for their consideration from the canteen fund. Just so you know, this is the old lease that expires in May. This is the check that you cut last August for it. Okay, this is a copy of that. It would be the same deal, same rent, same amount. plus 2 months, so it would be for a full year totaling $13,200. The lease would run from June 1st, 2018 to May 31st, 2019. To the question that Dr. Harris rose about, do we collect rent from the individuals and where does it go? Doctor, so you know that they are assigned to pay us rent. For the most part, we do not collect rent off them because we believe they should have the money in their pockets to get their home plan. Any money that they do give us, we put forth to pay for their equipment that they're using, the ankle bracelet and the monitor. It kind of goes towards the personnel too. So it does go back in the general fund to answer your question. It would be money that is, they give receipts for, they receive. It gets cut in a check to the finance office for us once a month. So the numbers that you see here in our reports today, the 15,000 plus for mail work release, that would be a separate check. It's a separate account. It gets cut to the finance department. The house arrest, the 51,000, in that money, if the females were giving us any money, that would go into that fund because although we call it women's work release, it's really a supplemental house arrest program because they're on the bracelet. And the monitors that we use now are cellular units that cost more money. It's not a crazy amount of money, but it is something. So whatever we collect from them, we do put back in the general fund. If the board chose to have it put back in the canteen fund, that would be up to them. And then we'd have to pay for that equipment out of the general fund. But we're really not making money up there, to be quite honest with you. I hope that answered your question. Thank you. So the consideration for today is for this third apartment. This is the signed lease, is the actual lease that would go into effect. If everyone wants to take a look at it, I can get copies to them if you so voted for it. The check would be cut from the canteen fund through their finance business manager out there, and with the approval of the warden, the check would go to the landlord. We would get the copy back, and then we would be in business for another year. That would total 3 apartments with 6 beds, 2 beds in each apartment. They have a kitchen, they share a kitchen, they share a bathroom. You know, each apartment has its own bathroom, has its own kitchen, that type of things.
It would actually have to be a county contract, this lease.
As opposed to?
It says county community corrections, but all contracts have to go through the county, the Board of Commissioners.
Otherwise, it would look okay.
Other than that, it's fine, as long as they don't have issues, it's the same as the last year's.
Yeah, I'm sorry, did you want to see last year's? I'm sorry, David.
No, I said, you know, I'm okay with the terms, but it would actually have to be a contract with Lackawanna County Commissioners rather than corrections.
Oh, I'm sorry if I misworded that.
It's just a legal thing. We don't
Okay.
have to the Board of Commissioners.
Brian, we'll bring it in at the next work session,
Okay,
okay?
sure.
To Chief Wallace, okay? Yeah, absolutely.
Can I have the original back so we don't lose it?
Anybody else want to see it?
That's my report.
Okay. Dr. Harris?
Yes.
Do the apartments, it doesn't say anything about appliances, are they furnished with appliances?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they have refrigerators.
Appliances fail?
The landlord is yes, he takes care of the stoves and the refrigerators and stuff like that. We supplied beds and furniture for them, like couches. We need a new couch in one of the apartments, to be quite honest with you. But the beds are basically the standard beds that we have in the mails work release, and we provide them with mattresses and we provide them with bedding, all that kind of stuff. The appliances are stoves and refrigerators and stuff like that. Yeah, I think there's a microwave in them too.
Don't have to have that in the lease agreement that the appliances are.
No, it says
functioning?
there is a
It says
part.
Utilities.
Well, maintenance for all maintenance for the property. That's part of it. You know, anytime that there's a problem, he takes care of it immediately. We're not even waiting days. It's pretty much an hour, to be quite honest with you. He's really good about it. Yes.
Anybody else?
Your overtime's at 39%, what's going on?
39% due to the retirements of 2 full-time officers in January, which took a considerable amount of time to fill up. and they were filled up mostly from the part-time ranks, which took a considerable amount of time. We're just finishing, yesterday was our second hire for the part-timer.
So that's going to go down next time?
Actually went down this week. We only had about 6 or 7 hours of overtime.
Good. Thank you.
They'll have to be trained, Madam Commissioner, at some point. The 2 full-timers will have to go to DOC in the future, so they'll have to go for 4 weeks. That's going to cost us overtime in that particular moment. But yeah, the rest of it should go down.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else for Director Jeffers? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve his report.
Second.
On the question? All in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Director Jeffers.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Warden Betty's report.
Good afternoon, Board.
Afternoon.
The average daily in-house population for the month of March was 818 inmates. Regarding the overtime report, the out-of-county boarding, and the community service report, they're attached. Staffing update, currently our correction officer numbers break down to 173 uniformed staff on shift. Nobody out on workers' comp, 3 individuals on administrative leave, and 4 vacancies, for a total of 180 officers. A new class of cadets began on 4/4/18. The class has 15 cadets in it, and the prison has a 5-week in-house training course, which is followed up with a 4-week DOC course within the first year of employment. FMLA, 24 officers have intermittent FMLA, which amounts to 13.7% of the COs. Budget as of March 31st, revenues at 34%, expenses are at 23%. Juveniles, currently we're housing 2 male juveniles and no female juveniles. And then inmates at or past their minimum date, the total is 36. We have 8 with no home plan. It's supposed to say with 4 of the 8 in our community service program. 5 parole has been denied due to an unacceptable home plan. 8 of them with home plans submitted and they're awaiting parole. 14 individuals have been remanded for the balance of their sentence, and 1 other, that's last couple months I've been telling you about a guy in New Jersey. He's still in New Jersey. Extraordinary occurrence reports. There was 1 extraordinary occurrence since the last prison board meeting, and that was on 4/8. A new commitment grabbed one of the nurses and became non-compliant with staff orders, and staff were able to obtain physical control of the inmate and then place him into the restraint chair for staff safety. PREA. There were 4 allegations of PREA violations in the month of March. 2 of the allegations were staff on inmate in nature. Both were deemed unfounded. And 2 of the allegations were inmate on inmate allegations. 1 was unfounded and 1 was founded. All results were forwarded to the district attorney's office. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for the warden?
Warden, since all of the lawsuits, has there been a decrease in admissions from state and feds due to that reason? I heard something on the last meeting report when I was watching the video.
If there was
Has there been a decrease in referrals or state prisoners or federal?
Actually, our numbers for federal inmates from the U.S. Marshals is up.
Okay.
We're averaging close to 200 individuals in the jail. The state, well, since that happened, it's unrelated to it, but the state, we were running at one point 120, 130 individuals. They revamped the way they did things and just made us what's called a parole violation center. They redid the contract to their benefit, saying that they will house up to 60 individuals at the jail. Well, prior to that, it was 160, which we never got to 160. But because of the way that they redid whatever decision-making process is, we no longer hold technical parole violators at our facility. And that was the difference between those numbers. That was about a year and a half ago that decision was made.
Okay, thank you. It's just a comment that was made in the last meeting. On DOC training, that's not done in our prison, is it?
No, it's not. We send folks down to Elizabethtown. And they go down there. It's a 4-week course, and they get certified by the Department of Corrections.
And that's in Elizabethtown?
Yes.
On the GED program, I know we had discussions on that as well, and our prisoners aren't held long enough in our prison to
We were talking about classes of 20 individuals, and we would have to assess them to ensure that we're going to have somebody there for a period of time. There are a lot of people that come in the door, and we have no idea how long they're going to be with us because of their pretrial status. They can, get bailed out any day. But then there are other individuals, really good cases, like I just mentioned, those individuals that are at or past their minimums. They would be prime candidates to take a look at, especially those 14 who have been remanded to serve the balance of their sentence. We know how long they're going to be with us. Usually when you have a sentenced individual too, we have a good feel for how long they could get into a work release with Mr. Jeffers at some point, but we have a pretty good feel of how long we're going to have those individuals. So that's why the numbers, we have 850 or so individuals, 200 of them are marshals. The other 650 pretty much are ours. And we'll come out with, a list of about 20 to 30 individuals that would be good for getting into the GED program, that we'll feel fairly confident they'll be there throughout the term, the length of it.
So I guess that's what I was looking for, because I know when we talked last time, I said, well, you said the average stay is 15 to 30 days.
Yeah.
And I said, well, who can get a GED in 15 to 30
Right,
days?
and-
So I was looking for the numbers of how many were staying past that 30 days.
Yeah, and I
guess.
couldn't give you those numbers, but, there's a good number of individuals that are there for a very long time, and it's the ones who are a real quick turnaround between being committed there and their preliminary hearing that really knock that number down. Because most of our individuals are 2 weeks or less.
I'm just looking, yeah, exactly, 2 weeks or less now. So, I'm just looking at costs, that's all.
Yeah.
So if you can get me some kind of numbers to prove that the costs would be worth it, I guess.
Tim, send that to all the members.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Gordon, I think you determined about 50% of the inmates don't have high school diplomas.
Well, years ago, I used to
Came
just
with us.
occasionally do a study, and
Yeah, they wouldn't go in the program if they weren't.
Right.
Because the GED program is about 8 weeks, right?
I'm not sure what the latest was. 90 days? 90 days.
How long is it in here?
Takes about 90 days
93
to
months.
have somebody ready.
Yeah.
Then they have to take the test. So.
Did you determine about 50%?
I was going to say, years ago, I used to do a lot of the studies that were involved there. At that time, I don't even know if we still do them. I don't believe we do because I haven't been involved in that.
Gordon, didn't we at the
But-
time,
but we
wasn't
would.
the problem was lack of anticipation or
That's what I was just-
participation at that point, wasn't that?
There.
With GED?
2011?
No. No, it had really picked up when we had EOTC there helping us. I'm not exactly sure what years. I think you mentioned 03 to 11. I know.
Because you brought it in, I think, as a counselor back in 1990s, I think, you brought it forward.
You know what? You're thinking of, we used to have a reading, basic reading, like through SCOLA. That was the one that,
We had a GED program, because I remember we graduated people at the old prison.
yeah. Yeah, we had it through Marywood at one point, Marywood
So we
University.
could actually see exactly how many people would participate and how many days, so,
Yeah, much more accurate numbers would be the ones that we had available from EOTC because it was much more current. The Marywood was 15, 20 years ago.
That would be paid through the canteen fund. I wouldn't vote on that at the commissioner's level we're already 20 million under.
Right. Right, and that's what I was looking for, the canteen fund. That's what I was looking at.
There's about $500,000 in there right now. And if the board would want to reinstitute that, it could sustain itself for quite a long time.
Plus that CD for $120,000.
It seems like the big thing now would be see what the participation would be if we, show the need.
But you believe, based on what you see on a day-to-day basis, that you wouldn't have much trouble filling a class?
No, I don't believe I'd have any trouble filling a GED class. Again, the biggest assessment we have to make is that individual going to be with us for 90 days?
Right.
And sometimes we're wrong, and good for that person if they get out quicker than 90 days, and at least we gave them a little bit of a background. When they get out, maybe they continue to follow through with that and take the test on their own anyway.
But once someone is sentenced, we know how long they're going to
Yeah.
be there.
And Warden, just hit upon this, that I think it's been since probably 1998, I think that the state requires us by law to actually, we teach students inside the jail.
Oh, yeah,
They graduate yearly out of the jail.
yeah, Scranton School District is, by law, has to provide educational services to our juveniles and anyone 21 and under that meet qualifications. Wow. So we do have that running, and every year we seem to graduate, anywhere from 3 to 7 individuals graduate and get a choice of a degree from West Scranton High School or from Scranton High School.
Any other questions for the warden on his report? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved.
On the question, or do I have a second? On the question. All in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Warden.
Thanks, Warden.
Okay, anybody,
Your Honor?
yes,
Just a quick question about the canteen fund.
yes.
Is the board sending it to the commissioners to authorize, to send it back to you guys to authorize? Because
No, I think the commissioners are the ones that have to authorize it and sign off on that lease.
Cut off on the lease, but the money has to come back.
Money's going to come,
So it has to come back down here to,
I think it's voted both ways. I think last time it got voted at the commissioner's level for the financing, and it got voted by the prison board for the approval of it.
so I will entertain a motion to approve the expenditure from the canteen fund contingent upon the commissioner's execution of the release, or of the lease.
just because of the time sensitive.
Yes. Somebody going to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
And a second? Okay. On the question? All in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. Okay.
Thank you, board.
Thank you. Make sure that they get that typographical change in the lease.
Yes, sorry
Okay.
about that.
No, it's all right. All right, thanks. Okay. Public, come forth and ye shall be heard.
I will follow up. I'm Jane Augustine with the OTC. Just to follow up, I do all the assessments for all the county inmates at the prison. As of this morning, I checked the numbers from this year to last year. We are 43.7% of inmates are reporting that they do not have a GED, just so you have that. EOTC was responsible for running the GED program offered at the prison from 2003 all the way to 2011. Just to give you some numbers, I did give these to the warden. Some of you may already have them. During that time frame, just to show that we can fill a class, we enrolled 513 participants, 475 actually completed the program. That's about 92.5%. 260 individuals actually took the exam. One of the problems that we had back at that time was the fact that we could get folks through the program, but we relied solely on the prison to do the testing, and sometimes they would complete the program and then there was a lag time between the time that they completed and they were able to test. We could only test a certain number of people at that time at any given time, so that also created delays. So some folks were actually released prior to actually getting the opportunity to test. Out of the folks that we did test, 72.6% passed. The GED program that we did run is probably the most labor-intensive program that EOTC offers at the prison. One of the primary reasons is because you're trying to meet people where they're at. You may have a group of 20 to 30 people, and the reality is some people are reading at a first grade level, some people are reading at a fifth grade level, and so on. Same thing with the math skills. Folks are at different levels. You have to find common ground, get them all to a point, and then move them forward. And you're trying to do this within 90 days. We never excluded anybody from classes either. Some folks actually were with us at that time for longer than 90 days. We would allow them to remain in classes. Again, primary reason being we just felt that it was better to give them some education than no education, with the encouragement that when they got out, we would try and help them follow up with additional services, whether that was through us, through SCOLA, whoever was available to assist. One of the things in regards to the budget that we presented to the warden, he had come to us, asked us kind of relatively quickly to come up with a budget. We based it off what we had submitted to the Department of Justice back in 2003. That certainly can be changed, tweaked, whatever we need to do. But one of the things that had been mentioned previously at board meetings here, the use of volunteers. I will say we utilize volunteers for many of the programs that we offer in the prison. One of the issues, though, that we did have with GED is the fact that because it is so labor intensive and trying to really get these people through and get their levels up, we ran into some issues sometimes with the consistency of volunteers or their ability to follow through with commitment for that 90-day period. But again, we're open to anything, and we'll try to do whatever it is that we can to get as many folks through as quickly as we can. Some of the new challenges, though, that we are faced with at the prison, since 2014, the exam has become computerized. I did have the opportunity to go with LCP staff back in 2014 down to Bucks County to meet with the Department of Education, to talk to them about how the changes were going to occur, how prisons were actually going to be able to accommodate the test and continue to test. We were offered at that time to remain a paper test site. However, the warden at the time, which was not Tim Betty, did not want to follow through with that, and that's when the program was terminated. Which is unfortunate because we could still be a paper test site and we wouldn't have to worry about trying to teach people how to use computers too, which again is another problem. One of the things we all well know, a lot of these folks know how to text and they know how to use this, but they don't know how to type. With the GED being a timed test and being a computerized test, not only do we have to teach them GED skills, but we also have to teach them how to type. So the proposal that we submitted to the prison obviously would cover all the classes, rotations of, 20 to 30 people. Usually it stays closer to 20 to try and get folks through. The anticipation would be that we would test within 90 days. Certainly, if we can become, it's another challenge that we have that is not in the budget, we have to renegotiate a contract with the Department of Education to become a testing site. Once we become a testing site, we'll be able to do that relatively easy. It doesn't take long to do. We did it previously, and I'm sure because we had a contract previously, we'd probably be able to reinstate it again. But we do have to make sure that we have different accommodations ready for folks, such as the computers for testing and whatnot. The other thing is, too, we do not have any trained examiners at this point in time for the prison. So we do need to get a couple of people trained as examiners, because the reality is you can't instruct and give the exam as well. So we do have some challenges that are ahead of us, but we're certainly ready to take them on. I'm sure we could get a lot of help because I know some other folks have offered, and we look forward to it.
The prospect of being a paper test site is
It's out.
vanished?
It's gone.
Okay.
It was a kind of a one-time, one-shot deal, according to what the folks said down at the Department of Ed in 2014. We did have all the paperwork. We presented it to the warden. He did not sign it.
Would that be worth reapproaching them on? Maybe they would do it now.
I actually tried already with the intent that maybe that would save us kind of a step and maybe some expenses.
Make it easier for the
Sorry.
person.
I've been told no. That pretty much what they're trying to do at this point, as we all know, many of the institutions in the state are using the tablets and things like that. As a result, almost all the facilities within the state that offer GED that are county facilities are all either utilizing tablets or utilizing laptops. What they do is they require you to schedule inmates to take the exam just like you would if you were on the outside. If you schedule, we upload the test in the morning, we take it to wherever they are taking the test, we bring it back, and we upload it again, or we download it and then upload it.
Do you have the equipment? Do you have the tablets sufficient?
We do not have the tablets at this time. We had thought by now, I think we're getting close.
We're trying to get them, I know.
I
that.
think
We
we're
aren't
close.
using our tablets for the prisoners.
Not
That is
yet,
not
no.
going to happen. That is not part of the agreement on that contract. Those tablets are not for the prisoners.
Actually, Commissioner,
That was something I had specifically stated. I would not vote on that if it was the
I
case.
think we have 450 tablets coming.
Yeah.
Under Gracie's contract. Perhaps the warden could speak to it more clearly than myself.
That was not supposed to be the case.
What, I was going to say, can I jump up there?
Sure.
Please, yeah. Good job, thank you.
Commissioner, what we were planning on doing was developing policy and procedure before ever
Which wasn't
distributing.
developed yet,
Right,
right.
that's not done, before ever distributing the tablets.
We're considering it.
I
Before even
assume we were
considering.
going that route, and we were
Going that route,
gonna
yeah.
approach the board about policy and
Well, I'm sure
procedure.
the taxpayers are going to be interested to know that their kids don't have tablets, but the prisoners in our county does, and we're a $20 million deficit budget in the prison.
We're
Is that what
getting
you're
them
telling
free.
us?
We're getting them free.
They're not going to cost.
Right, they won't cost the
What are they
taxpayer a
going to
dollar.
cost?
It's part of the deal that we worked with GTL, the phone provider. But GTL has been rewiring, for lack of a better term, rewiring things inside the jail. So, I mean, it has to do with Wi-Fi. And they're getting close, but I'm thinking 2 months, 450 tablets.
Now, this
Yeah.
would be at our discretion. This would be something that we watched. It wouldn't be just left for them to have.
Right, and we had
That
this.
was a big thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Class.
and I definitely was gonna present the board.
Crazy, our jails getting,
Yeah.
prisoners are treated better than our students.
I wanted to ensure that the board was comfortable with the fair distribution of those tablets, that I could satisfy any concerns that the board members may have regarding security-related issues, how they were going to be distributed, et cetera. So, again, we're not there.
They're gonna be able to go online,
No, they won't be able to go online.
be able to get through.
Do other prisons use tablets?
Yes.
I'm sure they do. They get treated better than students.
A matter of fact, Mr. DeBillio, I sent a video clip to the board members about 3 months ago or so. It's on there, whatever, I forget what county it was, out in Arizona. They talked about it. I mean, it was a PR thing on their behalf. I get that, but it can give some good background as to how that works.
No, it's restricted, and we've
Yeah.
discussed it, and we've reviewed it, and it's going to facilitate visitation. It's going to facilitate GED exams.
And also, it does act as
It will
a
require some
a phone.
extra vigilance, but not
It won't be distributed until we have a policy.
Right, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And it certainly is, I can say this 100% confidently, it's certainly not going in our Delta housing unit. That's our restrictive housing unit. That's where individuals go when they've broken the rules, and it's no, I mean, it's a tool. It's another tool that we would have in our
I understand
toolbox.
the tool part of it. Are we going to be able to take it back like at the end of the day? In other words, like, if they're just left to their discretion to play with these things, you know what I mean?
They're not going to be walking around the prison
That's,
with them.
that's why
Right.
we make sure of that, because that's what we were talking about, so let's make sure.
Right, and that's all, that'll all be
We had
covered.
people that were trying to put TVs in every one of, for every single inmate in the
Right,
prison.
right.
And that was a catastrophe. There was gonna be wires hanging and everything else. I
Right.
stepped in to stop it, but somebody's gotta make sure it's the safety of everyone.
Yep, absolutely. As I said, I will, I'll start, I'll see if I can get even if we don't have the tablets in place, I'll see if I can get you a draft policy and procedure for the next board.
Well, I think everybody's on the same page, that the policy needs to be in place before anything's distributed.
Absolutely.
Can you possibly bring a tablet to a meeting?
I don't have any, but I mean, I've seen them. They just look like the iPads that you would purchase in a store.
We could request one and bring it in. All of our purchasing.
Oh, have they?
They have been delivered.
Okay. Oh, so then, yes, I can. Deputy Warden Lang, you told me that they're waiting for everything to be done, so I can bring one for the next meeting. Yep.
Thank you.
Got it.
Ms. Augustine, do you have anything else you need to,
No.
Okay.
If you have any questions, we have the answer.
anybody have any questions for Ms. Augustine?
Budget, is that budgeted for GEDs you're providing for prisoners to get GEDs? What else do you provide?
Currently, we have other contracts with the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. We provide all the reentry programming in prison.
Okay,
So, and that goes for men and women.
okay, thank you.
Jane, you mentioned a grant that,
Yes.
can you go up to the podium for a second?
I'm not a good public speaker, sorry. I don't mind prisoners, but you guys make me nervous. I don't know why.
You had mentioned the possibility of looking into a grant for the program?
For GED?
Yeah.
Oh, we look for every single opportunity that we have to apply for grants. We try to build in GED costs. One of the biggest problems that we have at this point in time, GEDs are not necessarily required in a county facility. State and federal, there's different regulations and they're required to have them. At a county level, because of the transition and the movement of folks, it's not necessarily a requirement. It makes it very, very difficult to build into grants, but we're in the process of, we're always looking. We actually have two big ones that are going out. One actually just went out again to PCCD. We are looking to cover some GED costs for the outside on that one, which would allow for possibly, if you get the testing on the inside, it would cover costs on the outside. So we're looking at things like that, and then we're also in the process of getting a very large grant out, close to $1 million, to the Department of Justice for women, and that would include hopefully some GED costs if approved by the Department of Justice.
We do house state and county, state and federal prisoners.
Correct.
By contract, you're aware of that?
Oh, yeah, and they're covered. And we've never, but to be quite honest with you, when folks sign up for classes, the way we do it right now for any of the programming that we do, we put in a sign-up sheet on the unit, They sign up, I turn them over to the prison says yay or nay as to whether or not they can, participate. I don't know if they're county, state, or federal.
Did I hear you correctly? It's not a requirement?
At the
for an
county
inmate?
level.
Why is that?
I believe
Why
it's
would it
because
be?
of-
That's not our job to train people.
Why is that?
I believe, at least from what I understand, it's the fact of the matter that there's a high turnover rate. So typically for most folks to be able to get through a GED program, it's approximately 90 days, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Mostly pretrial prisoners or
Right.
sentences that are subject to parole in less than 11 and a half months. So I don't get those signed up and implemented at the time.
But we do have a lot of folks that are sitting there. And I mean, the reality is if we can turn around and get them through the GED program, or at least get them partially through, it gives them a better foot when they get back to the community. If they have their GED, obviously the job opportunities are much greater for them. So that transitional piece becomes just that much easier. And I will say too, I've been with the EOTC since 2000. I was part of all those grants that went through with the GED. I actually taught the math piece of the GED program. I saw a lot of folks that never thought they'd get a GED and they got it. It changed their lives.
Would you agree probably the people who did obtain the GED, you probably saw a reduction in the rate of recidivism?
I don't see
related
most
to
of them
those?
anymore. Granted, there's exceptions to every rule, and there are always the frequent flyers, but many of them have gone on. I actually have a guy right now who received his GED with us, kind of took a little time off because he was trying to get his affairs in order. He is now a full-time student, or it has been, out at Clarion University. He's set to graduate in May, and he's going to law school, and he was one of ours. Doesn't happen for everybody, but it certainly changed his life.
There's a greater chance that they would not return to the prison if they get...
Correct.
We don't know about that, though. You don't have statistics on that, you just said.
Well, nationally speaking, you can look at those, and certainly. The problem is at the county level, we don't necessarily track recidivism every single year.
I think it depends on age, and there's a lot of
Absolutely.
factors that would go into
Sure.
that. I think you can't just,
No, and I wouldn't even throw out a number on that.
that's what I'm saying, like, we can't
No.
just look at that.
But I will say, for those that get it and obtain it while they are incarcerated, opportunities are different for them when they get out.
Jane, can you just explain to me the difference in units or what you're recommending? I understand
Oh,
the
yeah.
difference in numbers.
Sorry, we do everything in terms of a unit. A unit, it would be like one class cycle of folks that would go through. So the hope would be that we'd be able to get 4 through in a year. Granted, depending on the size that we're permitted by the prison to allow, the warden's saying that could be 20 to 30 people per unit. The thing is that you also have to, take into consideration there may be some turnover. Obviously, when space would become available, we would fill it.
That's 4 classes of 20.
20 to 30, I guess, depending, because he said we might be able to go a little higher.
Was it last 8 weeks?
Now, well, 90 days.
90 days.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Joan?
Joan Hodawana, it's 220 Linden Street, Scranton. I am a no-holds-barred supporter of the GED program. I support any type of education, but it's always been my impression that your ultimate goal as a prison board is to put the prison out of business or to come as close as possible to that goal, which means you don't want to see repeat offenders coming back in the door. I believe that the GED will open potential doors to these inmates who, I was a victim of a robbery in 2014. I would not want people to go through what I had to go through. And we also don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish. I know in the short term there are going to be costs associated with this, but has anyone quantified what it costs when a repeat offender comes in the door, what the taxpayer now has to pay for them coming in maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 times? There's a cost associated there. And I realize we'll always have a prison, we'll always have offenders, but The goal should be to get as many people out of the prison system permanently as possible, make them productive, contributing citizens. And I think a GED is a necessary part of that goal. With regard to the need for things like tablets, you might want to consider soliciting businesses, because they're constantly, recycling their stuff, and rather than having things go to the electronic junkyard, maybe they can be recycled to, the prison. I don't know, think creatively. But I think
These we're getting for nothing.
that's fine. Well, then if you're getting them for nothing, take them.
Yeah.
But think creatively. Like I said, I do know this is an expense, and it's one, that, it competes with other legitimate causes. But I think when you look at this in the broader picture, it's worthwhile. Now to my favorite topic of money. I asked this before, and so I'm asking again if you can get the figures for me. Those prison guards that were put on administrative leave until they were terminated a month or two ago, in the current prison event, let's call it, because these are only allegations, and they should have the benefit of the doubt until they don't have the benefit of the doubt. But obviously, I've been back in Scranton almost 20 years since I retired from the military. And I swear, well, what is it, every 2-3 years, there comes the prison up and, on page one of the papers, and it's tiring. It's also expensive in terms of the money that comes out of the taxpayer's pocket. So I've been asking at the county commissioners meeting about a running tab for the legal fees. That's a separate issue. What I want to know from the prison board, and maybe Warden Beatty might be the best place to get it, is I'd like to know how much money was channeled into administrative pay. These people were on administrative leave, or a certain number of them, for a certain length of time. Any benefits they got, like health and dental, pension, whatever benefits they got, until they were terminated. And was overtime paid to other guards to have to replace them rather than hiring new guards? Because I think it's going to take months and months and months before this current set of allegations is laid to rest, however it goes. So I don't think, this is going to be settled by the 4th of July. So there will be ongoing legal costs, and I'd like to know this cost, because I have a bad feeling that when the final tab comes in, it's probably going to be pushing 7 figures, if not more. And the reason that I want to bring this to the public's attention is the public should be aware that these are not just titillating stories on Channel 16 News or the paper. These are expenses that we're digging into our pockets for. And I fully support Commissioner Cummings, and she's looking for every way to save money. Well, if the public is made sensitive to how much these periodic prison events, cost the public, then perhaps they will be more attentive to how the prison is run, what's happening at the prison, okay? Because, it's our job as citizens and taxpayers to put the fear of God into people like you, okay? So that you then, no, I'm serious. I'm serious as a heart attack. We're the best watchdogs of government operations because we're paying the bill. And, if you have people sitting here, they don't have to come to the podium, they're just looking at you, okay? And reminding you the next election's coming up here, here, and here. Or, we're not going to put up with this nonsense anymore. It'd be wonderful to get the tab for the last 20 years of everything that went on at the prison that ultimately came out of the taxpayer's pocket. But I would like to know what those prison guards, their administrative leave, their benefits, and the overtime cost runs up to, because that should be added to the legal fees. And I think when it's all said and done, it's going to, no matter how this issue is resolved, it's going to be a pretty pocket of change, okay, when you could have had a lot of other things done.
I believe I did that already. I think it was $400,000 for last year. that we were looking at for the overtime and the benefits, but I could be wrong. I know that I had
have a
requested those
figure,
numbers.
Warren
Is
Betty?
Tom- I don't see Tom
Joan,
here.
I think at least for the guards that were terminated,
Mm-hmm.
those are fixed costs. They're not ongoing costs, because.
Well, I mean, if they're home not working their shift, didn't somebody have to replace them?
Yes, that's the number
Well,
I had requested,
yes.
yeah.
And I'm sure there's overtime associated with that. We can try and figure out.
But if my
what
tax
that is.
dollar is going to pay someone who's sitting home on administrative leave because lawsuits, allegations, charges, whatever, to me, that's money down the toilet,
Yes, it is.
okay? And then to have, and you, if you can't hire more people and you're paying people overtime, that's more money down the toilet.
I don't.
And
think
I
that
want the
anybody would
people-
disagree with you on
I
that.
want the general public that's paying taxes with me to have sense of righteous indignation over this.
I don't think
because-
anybody's going to disagree with you,
Yeah.
Joe. Remember, we are all taxpayers here, too.
I know you are, but you make more money than I do.
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen your tax return. My salary
I know
gets-
you do.
My salary gets published in the paper. But the point that I'm trying to make to you is, sure, you come to these meetings, and a lot of these good people come to these meetings every month. And so we do have the fear of God into us, because we know you're coming. And we know you're coming with your questions. But we welcome your questions,
Yeah.
because your questions keep us alert and keep us focused on what the bottom line is. Now, with respect to personnel issues, some of those costs are going to be incurred because you have collective bargaining agreements that require people to have due process hearings, and they're going to be on administrative leave until those due process hearings are held, and a decision about whether they're going to be terminated or not. And as you well know, we have a 24/7 operation. So if somebody's pulled out of a shift, then somebody's going to have to cover for that shift. And as you also know, every month you can see how many employees we are, how many employees we have, how many COs we have, and we're always, whether it's FMLA or something else, we're always down from the numbers that we have. So overtime is going to be incurred. Everybody is painfully aware of that, and I think Warden Betty does his absolute best, and I think Mr. Jeffers and the other administrators do their best to minimize that. But in answer to your question, we can endeavor, I don't know, we'll get you an exact figure, but we might get you a pretty close round figure.
Yeah,
as
a
to
ballpark figure's
what,
enough.
You know, what that costs in terms of overtime. And because somebody might be filling a slot that's not getting paid overtime.
Yeah. Another thing, now here's a novel concept. Next time you negotiate a contract, put in there that if an employee is convicted of misconduct, they pay back, if they were put on administrative leave pending, due process hearing, and they're ultimately convicted, I want my money back. 8% interest. Okay? That's what I would like to see. Okay?
We'll put you on our negotiation team.
Hey,
Listen, I'd like to
you
shut
know
down
my
just
name
to
and
go.
address. Thank you.
Thank you,
Screwed
Joan.
us.
Anybody else? Okay.
We're deciding who's going first.
Oh.
We're just playing politeness. No, you go first. No, you go first.
All right. Well, you're elected.
Thank you. No, I pushed. My name's Ro Hume. I'm 738 Taylor Avenue, Scranton. I was very grateful for the attention last month at the previous meeting when I raised on behalf of the Healthcare Defenders Alliance the issue of sanitation supplies for female inmates at the prison, and I appreciated very much the attention that the board gave to that issue. I was sorry you weren't there, Commissioner Cummins, because I was counting on an ally there.
I saw that in the video, so I was laughing when I saw it.
I wondered if you had some answers for me.
Yeah, they can get as many as they want.
That was great, that's quantity. What about type, tampon or pad?
I think they can get anything they want too, right? Oh, is it all
Pad.
pads?
Okay, and have you entertained the idea of offering the alternative? Some prefer it? Thank you. The method of distribution, do they have to request it, or are they freely available without request?
They make requests for the block workers who are fellow inmates.
Thank you. The responsibility of payment was county or state? I was confused on that one. And then the last two items were the cost at the commissary for items if people wish to purchase supplementary supplies. That's okay.
They can buy a different brand.
Oh, yeah, there are supplemental, my point was that there were some indigent female inmates who couldn't get them. I must say I really appreciated the response to that yesterday. I have two small matters, very brief. First one was about the GED. You inadvertently stumbled, Commissioner Cummings, into a great educational debate, which is the debate between process and product. If the sole purpose of the GED program is to stamp people out the end with a cap and gown and a diploma, then your points are relevant. A lot of educationalists will believe that the process of exposing anyone to the discipline of going to class, to learning how to write an essay, to learning how to do that process of doing that, and whether they attended for 5 days or whether they attend for the full 90 days, and at the end of the 90 days receive a diploma, if we can sort out the testing, the value of every single hour of instruction for the inmate is a positive benefit to society. Some people think that education is a benefit to the person receiving the education. There is a large body of opinion which believes that education of every member of society is a cumulative benefit to the society. And I believe that as inmates, what we do to help provide them with knowledge is a benefit that flows back to us incrementally, and I don't believe that we should measure the success of the GED program by the number of caps and gowns we hand out at the end. And then the last very brief one is, do you have, as a prison policy, a limit to the number of hours of overtime that a correctional officer can work within a set period? Can they work 16 hours a day? Can they work 32 hours in a...
Law is 16.
Yeah, but what about cumulatively? What about if it's the next day? Can they? What about within 48 hours?
3/16s in a row.
3/16s in a row.
And they can just work the regular shift and they're off.
So we would have people looking after inmates who've had accumulation of potentially 15 hours sleep, given you take time to get off, go home, sleep, come back, go home, sleep, come back.
That's not a we set up, that's true, the state.
That's state federal law, yeah. That's labor law.
That's labour law.
Yes.
So would we have officers working more than 16 hours in a day on successive days?
Oh, I don't know about
In excess of
successive days.
16
I don't know
hours?
about
No.
successive days.
No, unless there was a state of emergency declared.
So they wouldn't work back-to-back 16s?
Oh, yeah, 16. I thought you said more than 16.
No, but I'm just concerned about back-to-back 16s
Yep,
where...
back to back to back, potentially.
Is that no more than 3 per week, 3 double shifts per week?
3 in a row.
3 in a row, but then after a regular shift, could they do
Start over again.
more 16s in a row?
That's...
You have 2 days off. Everybody has a weekend.
Security-wise, you
They
got
call
people
out
that
Friday,
can just-
Saturday, and Sunday, and Monday, and then they work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 16-hour days, and they get more than they would have gotten if they got paid the full week.
I'm more concerned about the health impact on, I'm more concerned not about the financial impact, which I can see that, but I'm just concerned about the health impact. I raise it as a measure of global curiosity and out of concern for the health of both the inmates and the COs, because I know how cranky I get when I don't get enough sleep. Thank you.
Yeah, Annette, you have more support on that than you know on my end, so.
I'm sorry?
You have more support with me on that end.
I know. Hands up everyone who's sleep deprived. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Bressler, you coming up? Yeah. Okay.
Dr. Stephanie Bressler, 1402 East Gibson Street in Scranton. I'm also representing Progressive Women of Northeastern Pennsylvania. When you issued the RFP for the medical contract, you required compliance with the National Commission on Correctional Health Care. One of the recommendations of the NCCHC is for women's nutrition and diet. And that includes a recommendation for women to receive a minimum of calcium in diet. Calcium in their diet. And also vitamin D. When I inquired months ago, I was told that milk, which was not available at the time for female inmates, would be available under the new food services contract. Has that new food services contract been implemented? And have the recommendations for women's nutrition also been implemented? Basically, are women now getting milk? And is there an alternative for women who cannot tolerate milk? And I know that the warden has talked about calcium-fortified fruit drinks. Some of them are almost not palatable. So are women getting milk, and are they getting alternative dairy products that provide them with the recommended calcium and vitamin D under this new contract? The other area that I just want to talk about briefly, because some of my questions have already been answered today, are the telephones in the visiting rooms part of the telephone contract? Is it the contractor's responsibility to keep those telephones in good functioning order? Are the telephones in the visiting rooms maintained in good operating order? Are visitors ever turned away because the telephones are inoperable? And I have another specific question about this. Is the phone available for disabled visitors currently operable? And to be in compliance with ADA, there needs to be a phone that can accommodate somebody, for example, who would be in a wheelchair or who would be on a walker that would not be able to use the typical visiting room telephone. So those are my questions.
Warden or Deputy Warden, are we able to respond to any of those off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, the telephones in the visitation, I may turn to Dave on one of these.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, the telephones that are in the visitation, they're not part of the phone contract with GTL. They're separate. Visitors, unfortunately, in the past have been turned away when we've had several of the telephones that are there for visitation damaged. It could happen on either end. Could just be the natural cycle of the equipment, and unfortunately sometimes it's the individual on the end of the phone getting angry and abusing that equipment. We do try to get those replaced as quickly as we can. We don't like turning people away because we don't have a phone that works for visitation.
To your knowledge, currently, are they all working?
I don't know about the current state right now if every single one is working, because there's visits every night. So something could have got broken last night. I'll get reports that a phone is down in the visitation area, frankly.
You haven't gotten one?
No.
Okay.
When, as long as you address the food services contract, you'll know.
Yeah, oh yeah, thank you. Regarding the food service contract, that decision was made to have Prices assist the county in entering into contract negotiations, and they're in the process right now. The milk is included with the new contract, which is not yet signed, because they're negotiating little bits and pieces of that contract. So milk will be there. Right now, milk is available for female inmates when they're pregnant. We do make milk available for those individuals. With the new contract, milk will be available for everyone.
And the disabled phone?
Disabled phone, oh, I'm sorry. I knew there was another thing. We do have a TTY machine that's there for inmates. Now, at visitation, it's never come up, but I think that we could hook that TTY machine up in the case that someone was hard of hearing. I don't know the answer regarding a wheelchair or a walker, other than I know one of the visitation areas is set up so that you would be able to get a wheelchair pushed up to it, but I don't know about the particulars as to whether or not that phone is at a different height level or anything along those lines. We haven't had any complaints. I haven't had any. So if you have heard something, please share it with me. We'll get it corrected if there is an issue.
I'm sharing it with you.
Okay. I will take a look then.
Has not been accessible for help.
Okay. I will definitely take a look. I honestly didn't get any reports along anything other than I know we had one area that could accommodate an individual in a wheelchair.
Okay. Thank you, Warden. Anybody else?
How you doing? I'm Matt Clemente. I live in Dunmore, and I'm here on behalf of the NEPA Prison Advocates, a group that I helped found. Back in February, I sent the board, through my colleague here, Beth, a letter I had written. Unfortunately, I was under the weather and not able to make it. So my question here today primarily is, can I expect an answer to the items raised in that letter? And then to elaborate on one of the questions, the last one, in fact, is if the board sees a role for not only the public at large, but advocacy groups to get involved in these issues. I do think there's interest, and we'd be happy to partner with you in ways that we can collaborate on. The one area, sort of broadly, that I'd like to see us work together is that we could potentially be an intermediary between the inmates who we have relationships with and the administration as well as the board. And so to the extent that there's interest from the board or the warden, we'd be happy to play that role, and I think it could benefit everyone involved.
Well, I don't want to sound flippant, but if you'd come to the meeting, you'd see how much interaction there is between the various advocacy groups and the board. I mean, these are not boring meetings. And we do take to heart everything that comes forward. And, there are some things that we take to heart more than others and put into practice and take under considerations. But there are other things that we make a determination are just not appropriate. But certainly, as you can tell by sitting here today, it's a board that's very open to input from a lot of different advocacy groups, and we welcome everything that and everyone to come to our meetings.
Well, you've sort of led into my next question, which was, would we consider having the meetings at a time that professionals could attend them? Because I've watched the meetings, and I certainly know what's going on because there is the video, but but for a opening in my schedule, normally I'm not able to make the meeting because they're during the lunch hour, which I think a lot of Lackawanna County residents, this is the biggest budget item for the county, so to the extent it's possible to have the meetings at a later time, certainly you'd see a lot more of me in more than just paper form. So thank you.
Is that supposed to make us want to change the meetings?
Yeah, when we're going to change.
I don't know about changing the meetings, to be quite honest with you, Mr. Clement. We have a lot of professionals, as you can see, that are involved here, and so it's not always easy to do it outside of regular meeting hours, but certainly something that I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we'll never discuss. It's hard enough to get everybody here during the business day. So, anybody else?
Well, I guess my main question was, can I expect an answer to that?
You'll get some answers. Some of them might be no.
Well, no, even that would be appreciated.
Yeah. No, I have your questions right here. You're a public defender down in Luzerne County?
Yep, so I
Get the afternoon off?
Luzerne County, and I'm also now a part-time public defender. I've opened an office in Pittston, so I have a little more flexibility with my schedule.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Beth Ann Zero, a resident of Lackawanna County in Dunmore, business owner in Dunmore, co-founder of NEPA Prison Advocates, and I'm glad Matt finally made it to a meeting because it might have seemed that he was just a figment of my imagination. He's not my alter ego type of person. What's that? Yes, he was my Mr. Snuffleupagus for a while, so I'm glad he was finally able to make it today. What I want to talk about is, here we were talking about education for the inmates and the public, and having the public understand what's going on with the prison. That's a part of what we do, is trying to have the community understand that what goes on at the prison does affect all of us. and educating the community and saying, what can we do? Because here we are doing all these Band-Aid type of things, but there's all the internal injuries that don't get addressed through the criminal justice system, and things that are beyond the scope of this board, but things that as citizens we should all be concerned about. And so many people wonder, well, what could I possibly do? So a part of that is education, and this whole past year as part of NEPA Prison Advocates has been a huge educational experience for me as well. I'm not the lawyer in my family. I haven't gone to law school, so a lot of this has been really new to me. So a lot of my education has been based not by just friendships I've developed with people on either side of the prison system, but also through a lot of reading. And in a lot of the studies that I've read, just one thing that I want to mention is here Florida invested a lot of money in their prisons, and all they did was increase the prison population and recidivism. Where New York State, on the other hand, began investing money into education, and they saw a decrease in recidivism statewide. So there are a lot of studies out there who indicate that education is a key to reducing recidivism and making our communities whole again. But that's just a side note. As part of our education to our community, we are having an event in May. Some of you received an invitation that I mailed out. It's Pyrrhic Defeat is the title of it. It's a visual study of mass incarceration, a local artist who does portraits of fellow inmates, these 20 to 30-minute portraits. There will be 236 of them on display at Artworks Gallery on Lackawanna Avenue for the month of May, and also there will be artwork there from other incarcerated individuals. We are having a preview evening on Wednesday, May 2nd. I do have separate invitations here. If you did not receive one and you would like one, just let me know. I have extras here. We are going to have guest speakers there that evening that are going to help educate us as well. Dr. Michael Jenkins from the University of Scranton, Andrew Wilczak from Wilkes University, and also we have some representatives coming from the Vera Institute of Justice, Jack Norton, who is a research associate, and Jasmine Heiss, who's the Director of Outreach and Public Affairs. The Vera Institute of Justice has many programs that are available for the prisons themselves to determine possible reduction of population safely. Also training for district attorneys. They offer, they've been going for a year longer than I have, so they've been around 56 years doing a lot of research and a lot of training. And I'm really happy that they're going to come and speak at our event. The artwork is going to be on exhibit through the entire month of May, but we have the preview night with the speakers on May 2nd, and then also our first Friday event, Friday, May 4th, 5 to 9. I hope some of you, if not all of you, would be able to attend.
Got my invitation.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you all. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Members other?
Oh, I'm sorry. Any members any other business from any of the other members?
Just quickly, Judge. Bev, who normally speaks at our meetings, last meeting had a question about are there AA meetings for women? And I asked the warden about that, and warden, the answer was yes, there are.
Wednesday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Wednesday evening, 6 o'clock, women's AA meetings. The other thing I wanted to mention...
At the prison?
At the prison,
Okay.
right. The other thing I wanted to mention quickly is, if you look around this room, 90+% of the people in this room today are at every prison meeting. And I personally feel, like you were saying before, that this is the prison board. We're very influenced by the participation we get from the active members that normally come, and we appreciate you being here. Thank you.
And if you really want to know about the fear of God, come to Mass every morning with Joan and me, and we both have the fear of God put into us. So,
Especially if that's
That's right. Now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, Commissioner Cummings.
Yes, I will, I'll keep it brief. I want to have a work session on the treatment of what we're doing with gender dysphoria, because that came up in executive session. So if we can set something up for that at the commissioner's level, because we need to take care of that issue. It's something that I need to, I want to look into further. And as far as the topics that we discussed here, I appreciate all of you coming in, because I value what you do say, even though I disagree adamantly with most of it. But I appreciate the fact that you take the time to come here and discuss it with us, so thank you. And I think that's it. Yep, that's it.
Anything else from anybody?
Thank you.
Now I'll entertain a motion to amend, or to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second? All in favor? Thank you, everybody.